And here we have Bryan and Joanna, and I actually start with something really simple, something you know much better than I do, your name fully, pronouns, or how you identify, if you'd like to share that, where you're from and what your role is in this particular film. You wanna, Joanna, you have the mic, so you can start. If you don't.
I'm Joanna Haigood, and she, her, and just trying to get all the questions right. And I am the choreographer for this project. And yeah. Oh, where am I from? Oh, well, they're from all over, but I was primarily raised in New York City, but I've been here for 43 years now.
In the Bay Area.
I think I might be from the Bay Area a little, but mostly from New York.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bryan Gibel. I'm from New Mexico, actually, born in Albuquerque. I was the co-director, along with Joanna, and the cinematographer and editor for the film. I think I'm missing a... I'm he, him, and I think that's it.
Thank you so much. So I am one of the lucky folks that also got to see this piece in person, as well as seeing the film. And in person, as an audience member, we could walk around, choose what we wanted to see, how long or short we wanted to stay in and experience inside that magnificent Grace Cathedral, seeing your incredible artwork. With the lighting, I happened to go at night, so seeing the film, I got to see a daytime version of it. As a choreographer, co-director, you get to actually choose what people see. There's a difference. Very different. So what was that experience like? When we're in performance, choreographers, we put it out there, but y'all get to choose what it is you watch and what you don't watch, what you see and what you don't see. Choreographer, director, you have a different way that you get to kind of, in a way, control what it is we view. So what was that experience like? And did you have particular things that you wanted to, a story you wanted to tell with those choices? You can pick any of all of that as you like.
Well, the beauty of well, first, can I just shout out to the Grace Cathedral folks who are here and who really made all of this happen? There they are. And particularly Rebecca Nessel, who really put up with so much with us and just allowed so many great things to happen, probably against her better judgment, but she did it, and it was really a tremendous gift to us, so thank you. Well, the beauty about being at Grace Cathedral and the fact that it was so large that it really gave the audience an opportunity to see the work in so many different ways and from so many different perspectives, and for an extended period of time. I think it went on for 3 hours every performance, and it's a 30-minute cycle. So people got to stay and maybe stay put in for one of the performances and then get to have a completely different experience. Having seen it myself, many, many, many times, I really feel like I hadn't exhausted the opportunities to see a full, the full spectrum. There were still so many things that I still missed. But working with Bryan, we had 2 cameras, I think 2 cameras. So, a lot was dictated by what they could capture in each show. And then, I tried to, mention all my favorite moments. And of course, the release at the beginning of the dancer, Suzanne, releasing from the swing, that was an important moment. So, yeah, I feel like, this was one way to see the performance. It's very, very different, but I feel like the film really captures so many of the feelings and, kind of the visceral responses to being there. Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah,
just
well, Bryan was such
right,
a fantastic
Bryan, talk about that
cinematographer.
collaboration as cinematographer and the editing as well. You did that as well,
yeah,
right?
we worked together very closely on the planning of the way that we shot the film and the way that we edited it too. So I came to a bunch of rehearsals ahead of time and then filmed probably 6 or 7 performances, I think. There were some I was shooting photographs for and others I was filming, and also would like to thank Grace Cathedral as well for letting me run all around that place with my Steadicam and get right up next to the ladder and all of these things. But it was really, I think, a process of discovery for me as I was going, because the camera was always moving and following dancers. And so it was both a collaboration with Joanna and really with the dancers as well, trying to just capture and feel and into where they were going to go and moving with them. And the light also really dictated a lot of the shots, because the lighting in the cathedral was so spectacular. At times I would look up and, gasp, which luckily we cut out of that. There would be a lot of gasps that would have come through the audio there if we wouldn't have cut it out. So yeah, and then the editing also, we reviewed all of the footage together and spent a lot of time making sure that we captured and included not only moments that really shone through on camera, but also that were really important to the conceptualization and the choreography that Joanna did.
Please.
Oh, I was just going to say one of the difficult things was trying to get it in order, because it's very tightly choreographed because of it had to be exactly 30 minutes. So trying to order the sequences was kind of a challenge.
And the overlapping of movement practice too, right?
Yeah, the different elements.
Yeah, those elements were stunning. And then you caught moments around the lighting that you pictured in shadows on the wall that just, again, spoke, I think, to the theme and meditative stance of the work, right? Or the meditative movement of the work, really. I think we just have a few moments. Questions or impressions or things. I'll start with, I happen to know Shanti, I'll start there. And then the handsome person in the collar, yes. Oh, here, let me make it easier for you.
I love the music and wonder how you took the performance music and put it on the film.
Well, it is a recorded score, but there was a live component. The organist was playing live, and there was a click track that he was listening to while the performance was happening in order to get all of the cues. And so that was, his playing was also recorded and laid into the score. The tricky thing is that it's, Grace has just this really unusual, like many cathedrals, but a very complicated acoustical structure, and so there are things that had to happen in the music that would respond to I think it's like 9 seconds in some places, right? Delay, 12 seconds, right? So Walter spent a lot of time, and we, talked about it a lot. It's like, well, if I do this here, then it will happen down here. And so how do we blend that sound with the resonance of what's happening? And it was really quite remarkable in terms of the research piece and the kind of the experience of that sound environment. So.
I was so
But
glad.
Walter Katundu is just so fantastic.
And I was so
Just a
glad that
fantastic
you
artist.
included the organist in the filming.
Yeah.
I love that part. I think Bryan wants to answer something.
Just going to add
it.
one thing, is that we started out with the recording that Walter provided that was playing in the theater, but we found when we played back just that, it was missing like an essence of the cathedral that couldn't be captured just on that wave file. So I ended up putting 6 or 7 different microphones that I sort of hid in different locations, and we blended those in because there's an ambiance and a presence in that cathedral that can't be captured otherwise. And it really brought it out a lot to have a mixture of the clean original recording and then like the heart and soul that space provides for audio texture as well.
My name is Malcolm Young. I'm the dean of the cathedral, and it's a very unique auditory space. You go in there, and on a Tuesday night for yoga, the minute you walk in, you know it's yoga. You go in for a funeral on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know that's that. But I love the drama that you built up, and Chris Keaty, you just did a great job of working with his music, and it's just so powerful to see it here. I've got to see the film another few times. That wasn't enough for me. Oh yeah, I'm going to watch it all the time. Yeah. all the time. Yeah. The question I have is about the lights in the stained glass window. So October is the best month to be in Grace Cathedral because the height of the sun and the stained glass windows. I wonder if you can talk about just the difficulties of shooting in that space, just the lighting.
We were there in February.
Yeah.
When the sun was very low.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a cinematographer's perspective, difficult is not the word that I would use. It was an incredible joy and privilege to be in there. Especially the stuff that completely blew me away was, at first I was filming on a lower level, and then when I started looking up from the ladder, it was like truly divine. Like the light, the colored light coming through and the flares of the lenses, and it got to a point where I found almost anywhere that I was looking up, it just had so much texture and color to it. And so I really tried to compose the shots that were moving, thinking of that. And it's almost intuitive after shooting a lot. It's just like you follow the feeling. The light has a feeling, and it would pull me in different directions as well as the dancers. And so I've never shot in anywhere that has light that has that much emotion. I guess that's what I say.
Thank you for that. Yes, I'll run up there. Like Oprah.
Just like Oprah. Beautiful, beautiful film, and also choreography, and the thought, obviously, and the sensitivity is fabulous. And that first trapeze is like, can you talk a little bit about your choice of the costuming also? And I think the camera captures things that maybe the spectators didn't, so I really appreciate that too, like under that round disc thing too.
Costuming, the challenge, I always have.
Joan Raymond did the costumes?
Yes,
Joan,
yes. Joan Raymond, who's really a brilliant designer. Well, we just, we tried to keep things simple. I'm one of those people who love everybody in rehearsal clothes, and so when someone says costumes, I'm like, they look great, what's wrong? I can see their bodies, and it's fabulous. So we tried to keep things simple for a number of reasons. One, because they're in harnesses and ropes, and there's lots of communication, which you actually do see in the film, but you have to know what you're looking at. But there's a lot of communication between the dancers and the riggers, so there's like, hand gestures and head gestures, because they're all on a belay system, so as they're going up, and there's also the person on the Suzanne on the swing is actually being pulled consistently with the man with the biggest arms in all of San Francisco for pulling for 3 hours at a time. So we tried to keep them simple and to draw from the colors from the stained glass, and to just give them just a little bit of movement so you can, get a sense of the air. We could feel that when you're walking around the cathedral and during the performance, but it was difficult to try to capture that in a film. We did have some problems of figuring out how to deal with the harnesses, and so at some point we just said, well, everybody knows that they're they're on. We see ropes, so we may as well keep those visible. But that's something that when we go on our world tour, we're going to try to figure out. But
I actually appreciate
anybody
seeing
who has
harnesses.
other cathedrals and mosques and so on, please send me your number.
We have time for another comment or question before we wrap up.
How did you come up with this idea? I mean, where does this project come from?
Well, I had a friend who suggested, what about Grace Cathedral? And I thought, wow, that sounds like a wonderful idea. And then we approached Rebecca and, kind of come to some soft agreement about making something. And I kept thinking, what do I want to make here? And it had been somewhere around the time when Squirrel Hill had happened, or there had been a number, and Mother Emanuel. There were, for me, it felt like not necessarily an uptick, but a reminder of these tragedies that happen in these sacred places. And I was trying to reconcile in my own mind. It's like, even in religious wars, it's like we all try to hold this idea or principle of love in each of the faiths that we practice. And how does that relate to these actions that feel very much like the opposite? So I was trying to work through that and was speaking to a number of people about it, and then COVID happened, and our, social and racial reckoning happened, and I thought, you know what, let's just throw love in general. Right now, we just need to focus specifically on this. For me, because I was in a state of complete outrage and anger and hurt and pain and ancestral trauma, and there was so much, that I personally was dealing with, and I could see that was what was being reflected back at me, through my friends and through what was, the world, really. And so I just decided to think about that, and I thought about 3 things that just kind of rose to the surface. One is that, like love, what is it? That sense of surrender. And that's what the swing is about. That letting go, that moment where you just crack open and release into it, letting go. And then the latter is really about the work, that, love is a practice, as we say, love is work. There's labor. It does not necessarily just appear because I say it. And it's scary. Sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes you're fighting against yourself and others to try to find that place of balance in love. And so, but, as you climb, as you do the labor, you get stronger, it gets stronger, and your perspective of the world or your environment or your relationships gets much broader and that much clearer. So, and then the other is it's called the quieting, which is really about, sitting with yourself and listening and quieting down, the thing that we all, I think, certainly I do, struggle with. And I worked with these 2 amazing theologians who also are artists and have kind of strong ties to indigenous practice. And so we went around the cathedral and thought about different meditations that could be possible. They built that altar. And because some people stayed for 3 hours at a time, it gave people an opportunity to sit and to think about their relationship to others, to the planet, to what was actually happening right now. So there were, I think, 8 stations where people could sit or to participate in meditations as well. So, and then we did a big survey with I think 100 people responded on what love meant to them. And we read those every single day. That when they came in every day, we started with what people had sent us, and that were so profound. After reading many books, on love and scholarship and so on, the things that people sent us in the end were the things that were most powerful. So it was great to be in that environment. I mean, it was really life-changing in so many ways, but to also be blessed to be in that deep reflection for that long. And during COVID, because the cathedral was shut down, we were able to be in there for a number of weeks. So, and we got to work in a much deeper way than we normally do because, anyway, bother on.
One thing I want to add quickly about that is that the love that Joanna principally made sure was a part of that whole project was palpable and incredibly powerful. And so you would always make sure to circle up the dancers and the whole crew beforehand. And it became like a family where it was really healing for everybody involved because we were so starved for connection at that point that was really powerful. And that permeated into the performance and into the way that I shot it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it resonates in the film as well. So thank you. Thank you for sharing and spreading the love. It is streaming quite a bit of the San Francisco Dance Film Festival programming, quite a bit of the programming that didn't make it onto live in-person performance or theaters, streaming October 5th through the 15th. So it's happening right now. So Love a State of Grace is part of that programming. Raising Voices, that happened before this showing, is also streaming, as well as some really great films. So I invite you to check out what's happening on Connect. Randall, can you just shout out the Connect really fast before we go? Can you just shout out a little bit about how to access that? odc.org/connect, and check out our online programming. I want to say another big thank you and share of love and appreciation to Joanna Haigood and Bryan Gibel, as well as Aaron and Yolanda for futile gestures. Thank you. And my SF Dance Film Fest family, give them some love too, because they work really hard to bring this to you. And hey, our evening is not over. If you want to get some dinner like I'm going to do and then come on back, Bay Area Shorts. Amazing short films by Bay Area artists performing and making film. 6 o'clock, part 1, 7:30, part 2, and there's live performance as well right here in this theater. So come on back, bring friends. Thank you for your time tonight, or this afternoon. Thank you.